Hey everyone, so I wanted to share the books I read in January and February and just give a few of my thoughts and the ratings I gave each book. So I did read a lot of these books on Libby or my Kindle because I'm just getting back into reading and I didn't want to invest in books that I wasn't sure were going to be my type, but now I'm getting a better idea of what I like and don't like, so I'll definitely buy more physical copies as I go on. Okay, so the first book I read is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. I was ready to give this book a 4 out of 5 stars up until the end. I hated the ending. I just didn't like the way the characters and the relationships and how that all played out. Too unrealistic, and I couldn't wrap my head around it, so I dropped my rating to 3.25. Overall, I think it was a really good mystery. It kept me really engaged. I love the documentary style of presenting the case to us. I also was not able to guess what was going to happen. The main character is pretty insufferable. I couldn't stand her, and I don't need to love a main character to like a story, but yeah, this one made it hard. The next book I read is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I wanted to read this because of the movie that had come out and it had done really well. And I'm the type of person I have to read a book before I go see the movie, so I was really excited to read this one. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. It's a great thriller, start to end, super fast paced. It's also one of those where you think you know where it's going, but it's not, and the twist is crazy. Okay, after that, I picked up the Cruel Prince trilogy. I honestly read this book because my cousin told me years ago that I would love it, and I saw it on my TBR and I was like, okay, let me try fantasy, because I don't really love fantasy, but it took me a bit to get into it, but I think 30-40% of the way in I was honestly hooked. I think the story is amazing. The way she writes, like the regal English and the way they talk, it's easy to understand and it really just pulls you into the story. Multiple characters are very well written, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I really loved it. It ended on a cliffhanger, so I rushed to buy the whole trilogy, so I couldn't wait to read The Wicked King. This one I also gave 5 out of 5 stars. It started off a little slow, but honestly, this one's my favorite from the trilogy. I absolutely loved it. There are so many plot twists, and all of them are like good plot twists. They're not weird ones that don't make sense. They're not exactly predictable ones. This story is so well written. Again, it kind of ends in a little bit of a cliffhanger where you just immediately rush to read the third book. So, Queen of Nothing, this one I was a little disappointed in. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars just because I thought the first half was really fast paced. There were already so many plot twists in the first half, but the second half just became a little predictable in the sense everything seemed to be working out for our main character and the people around her. Every obstacle, every struggle, everything just kept working out. So I was like, there's no high stakes in this for me anymore. I don't know. I was a little disappointed. The next book I read was Cover Story by Mahari McFarlane. I'm probably totally butchering her name. I'm sorry. But this book has the enemies to lovers trope. There was an entire subplot or main plot going along this enemies to lovers plot about the main character who is an investigative journalist. There's an intern who joined the company, and it's kind of like the enemies to lovers between them while they both work on a case together. So I thought the plot was super interesting. I was pretty interested in the case itself and what's going to happen between the two of them. I gave the book a solid 3.5 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy it, but some of the writing I just couldn't get into. It was confusing. And the other thing is, I'm pretty sure the main characters are like 36 to 38 years old, and they were using really cringy Gen Z slang. And I'm like, that's just not happening, especially because the main character is off social media. She is not on the internet ever. So it doesn't make sense why she would be using these words. After that, I was really in the mood for something light. Cover Story is light, but I just wanted to continue and read something light. So I picked up The Academy by Ellen Helgerbrand. I read maybe 2 of her books before, and I wasn't the biggest fan. Like, they're good. They're like good travel, airplane books or beach reads. They're fun in that sense. So yeah, this one really piqued my interest because it's set in this private school, really rich kids, and kind of the drama between all of them or their individual lives. And it reminded me a lot about Gossip Girl, and there were some Gossip Girl references in it. And I love Gossip Girl, so I was super excited to read this book. I feel like it was written for people like me, and it is told from so many POVs, like at least 15 different POVs. The students, the teachers, the parents, the counselor. You're getting everyone's perspective, even if it's just like 5 pages of a chapter. So if you're not into books like that, maybe skip it. It took me a while to get into it too. And to be honest, I almost DNF'd this book like 20% in because, one, I feel like I just have a thing with older people in books using Gen Z slang, because why would they do that? Especially when it's not them speaking, it's just like the narration going on. I remember the principal is like, oh, there she is surrounded by her squad. Like, just say friends. Why do you have to use the word squad there? Especially from an almost 50-year-old principal. Anyway, I think I just wasn't really feeling the story. There were too many POVs, and then there was one character who is super annoying. She ends up making like the worst decisions ever, and I couldn't stand her, and I almost put the book away, but I'm glad I didn't, because as soon as there's the parents' day at the school and we start getting the parents' perspective, I became so hooked to the story. There are these 2 girls you mainly follow. I won't say too much more, but they are like polar opposites, and they all have their personal family drama going on. And what I do like is sometimes you see the same situation or the same scene from kids' POV and then the parents' perspective, and you get like this full 360 story about it. There are some heavier themes discussed, but they don't really go into detail, I would say. So it doesn't feel heavy. It's still a very light read, but I think it's more to show there's a lot these kids and parents and teachers are dealing with. Gossip isn't like about each other. It's more you're getting people's unfiltered thoughts, even the teachers about other teachers and the teachers about students. So yeah, it's just a fun little gossipy read. I feel like if you're not the target audience, maybe you would rate it lower, but because I love the setting and I love the trope, I ended up giving it 4 out of 5. I also read The Blonde Identity by Ali Carter. This one was just a silly read if you want something light and relaxing, like a beach read. I think this is a good book. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. It's basically about 2 twins. One of them is a spy, but the other twin gets amnesia, and other people around who are after the spy twin think the amnesia twin is the spy. So she's like, I don't have any memory about my life, but I guess everyone's saying I'm a spy, so I must be a spy. And it's just kind of funny. And then there's a romance between her and this guy who's after her spy sister, but thinks she's the sister. And yeah, it's just how it unfolds. The last book I read in February is The Sicilian Inheritance by Jo Piazza. This book immediately drew me in. There was great setting, character establishment, and the mystery was built up from the first chapter. Our main character, she is going through a lot. Her restaurant is closing. She's going through a divorce. And then her great aunt passes away. Her dad's side of the family is this big Italian family. So when her great aunt passes, she leaves her this note saying, we have a plot of land in Sicily. I want you to go there and check it out. If the land is worth anything, I want you to keep the money and kind of give yourself a second chance at life. And very soon we realize that's not the only reason her great aunt sent her there. She believes that her mom, so our main character's great grandma, her death is a bit mysterious. So the family thinks her great grandma died of the flu, but her great aunt, Rosie, is thinking, no, there's something super suspicious about it. I want you to find out what actually happened. And what I also loved about this book is the author just gives you these like tiny breadcrumbs. In the beginning, we don't have the full story of why her restaurant closed or like what she's going through or what's really happening in her life. And then we get these breadcrumbs about the actual like mystery of the land. I felt that it was really well trickled in. So I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I went into it thinking I was reading a mystery book, but it is also a historical fiction. So you get a blend of the two genres. So the two themes that kept emerging, the first one, there were a lot of feminist themes. Half of the story does take place in a very small village where not many people are educated. The town is very, very religious and superstitious in the 1900s. So yeah, you can only imagine. And the second is friendship and community, and how community really shows up for each other and the power of friendship. And I think the author did a good job with show not tell. And through the stories, through the writing, you really feel these two themes over and over. And I also just thought I knew where the story was going, but there was a crazy plot twist at the end, so I really did not expect it. And I low-key even cried a little bit at the end because it really touches on a mother's sacrifice and just what our ancestors have gone through to give us a better life we have now. So she took a lot of inspiration from her own Italian family and the stories that have been passed down. One thing I didn't like about this book is the 1902 storyline sounded like modern day English. It didn't sound like I was listening to people living in the 1900s, and that just doesn't feel immersive to me and takes me out of the story. But yeah, those are all the books I read in January and February. I'm really excited for all the books I have lined up for this spring. Thanks for watching. Bye!